of From Dial Square to Where, the show for Arsenal fans all over the world.
What the hell was that?
Yeah. If you know, you'll know, Glenn.
Oh, okay. Go on.
Right. We've got a debutante tonight, so make him feel very, very welcome. Everyone watching, everyone on the panel as well. It's Stan the Man, all the way from Vancouver, the Groover from Vancouver. How you doing, Stan?
Good afternoon. That's a hell of an introduction.
Welcome. It's nice to have you on board, mate.
Thank you.
Hopefully, it is the first time, but hopefully not the last. Anyway, well, we'll see how it goes. I shouldn't say that.
You might be glad. You might be glad that I'm short of me by the end of it.
Exactly. The other two people on the panel tonight probably need no introduction. You've probably seen them a million times before. Alex from Cannon Fodder TV, the great other channel that's out there in the world. How you doing, Alex?
Pretty good. Like I said, it's been a bit busy week or so. I said my wife is going to Colombia tomorrow, my daughter's birthday, so it's been very, very busy. But I'm happy to be back on the channel, Andrew. Cheers, mate. No,
you're very welcome, and thanks for coming along. No I know we're going to have to lose you a bit earlier tonight because of what's going on, so thanks for coming on anyway. And Glenn, how are you doing?
Hello. I wish my wife was going to Colombia, but she's not.
At least we've got a sense of humour in these dark times, eh?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God. Well, you probably know exactly how I'm feeling at the moment. We'll all come onto how we're feeling, I'm sure, in no time at all. So we're going to push things along a little bit quick today because of obviously losing you a bit earlier, Alex. So I'll go to you first. What's your first port of conversation today, then, Alex?
Well, this is a tweet I actually snapped up late yesterday, and I won't call out the Twitter or the twit or whatever it is. And he says, "What a clown! Ha ha ha! Iwobi was good in that game. He has had better performances for Arsenal, though. He is our academy product. We'll always want him to do well." And someone's responded by Iwobi, ha 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 ha, absolutely shite. Thank God we got rid of him.
Yeah, sorry about that, Alex. I shouldn't have put that public, should I? No, I'm joking.
It was you then.
No.
I was just wondering. I'm not sure about the history of us selling our worst players to Everton, but we got rid of Walcott. I think maybe at the right time, and Iwobi's got over there as well. He's got 2 goals so far for Everton.
More than Pepe.
I'm saying nothing.
That wasn't me.
I'm not having a dig at Pepe. I'm a big fan.
Fan. Yeah. Genuinely. But it appears as though he's not lit up Everton so far. But all I can say is I wish him all the best. I was actually surprised when we got rid of him in the last transfer window, but again, I wish him all the best. Has he been shite? I don't think so.
I always liked Iwobi, but I wasn't sorry to see him go. I caught that last Everton game. I saw Theo Walcott getting a lot of love from the Everton fans. That made me feel good. I always liked Theo, but we haven't given Everton anybody that I miss. Sorry.
But Glenn, why were you happy that we got rid of him?
No. Well, Iwobi, I wasn't happy. I should have said surprised.
Yeah.
But if getting rid of Iwobi got us Pepe, then and oh God, I opened that can of worms. But I'd rather have Pepe than Iwobi.
Well, definitely. I mean, I can't say I was too to see him go because I think that he played over 100 games for Arsenal, and I think we saw pretty much. I'm sure he can improve a little bit more, but I don't think that he's going to get much better than he is now. And as good a player as he is, and I loved his passion for the club, and we all felt probably a little bit emotional when we saw that video that was put out after he'd left, when he was a little kid at Arsenal and everything, and he saw his sort of growth throughout his life at Arsenal. So it's always a shame, but it happens. And, I don't think he was ever going to be good enough to take us to where we want to be as a club. Yeah. However, I don't think Emery wanted to get rid of him. I think he was sold out from underneath him. And same with the Mkhitaryan. I don't think he wanted to let either of them go, but it was taken out of his hands. And
I think with Iwobi, I always felt literally it was just the end product. If he gave us more in the final third and maybe scored more goals, I think maybe he would have still been with Arsenal. But I just kind of felt that when he was on the ball, he was like a buzzing bee in a small box. He was like, I was thinking, just calm yourself down, make the right choice. And more often than not, he would make the wrong choice. But I think it was just the final third. His end product wasn't what we were looking for. It was take us to the next level.
I just wanted to hear what the Groover from Vancouver thinks about Iwobi.
The Groover from Vancouver feels exactly the same as Andrew, to be fair. I think that Mkhitaryan and Iwobi were taken away from Emery by the board. And I think if Emery had his way, I think he kind of looked at Emery and Mkhitaryan as a security blanket. And by having them removed, it's kind of forced his hand to elevate some of the young guns. And I think that was a great move by the board to do that. People are talking about, who's going to be the next manager, blah, blah, blah. But whoever the next manager is, they've got to work under this board because that's how it is now. We don't have a manager. We've got a head coach. And the board will supply him with the tools to get the job done. Obviously, he's going to have a say and have suggestions. But I like the way that the board are making these moves and forcing the head coach to play some of these other players.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully Xhaka next. Hopefully Xhaka in January. Just take the option of Emery picking him away.
I was hoping that he was going to go off on his paternity leave, and that would force his hand.
That was only ever because of the international break. That was only ever for Switzerland.
To talk about Stan's point he just made, how sad is it? Last game, I heard that Xhaka had one more yellow before he's suspended, and for 30 seconds, I was like, "Get one more yellow next game." But of course, that wouldn't be right. But we're stuck with him, man. We're stuck with Xhaka for however long Emery's going to be here, man. Everybody's saying it. Xhaka and Emery are kind of a package deal.
But can I just say something before we move on to the next person's tweet? A lot of people have been saying that Emery's made a rod of his own back because he's made Xhaka as the captain, but he was taken off.
He took him off because of the yellow card, Alex.
Great point.
Yeah, but he took him off. So no one is how can you say it? No player's place is safe, even the captain.
And can I ask you a question about that?
Before, so
yeah, of course.
Could I ask you a question about that? Because I was down the pub watching that game, and when he took Xhaka off, I had so many people say, "Oh, at last the pennies dropped."
Nah.
So, do you think when he took Xhaka off, that was some kind of an epiphany moment for the manager, or do you think it was something that was completely?
No, it's because he didn't want him to get another yellow card.
Yeah.
Good point. As far as Xhaka coming off at halftime, I think it was just Emery doing what he got away with so much last year: a shitty starting 11, and then he tries to fix it at halftime. That's what it appeared to me to be like. Where he, go ahead.
Did you see him literally run 20 yards just outside our penalty area and just shove someone to the floor?
Yes.
It weren't long after that. He was so lucky he didn't get booked for that, and that's what Emery saw, and he didn't want him to get another booking. That's the only reason he took him off.
Well, that makes sense. I'm not arguing with you. Stop yelling at me.
Well, you yell at everyone.
Look, we got a new person here, and you're yelling at me.
Stan, you'll get used to it, Stan. Or maybe not.
Definitely. Welcome to my house. Anyway, Stan, let's move on to your subject matter, shall we?
I've got one here, and this one's from Darren Arsenal 1, and he says on Twitter, he will play Tierney and Bellerin Thursday and say it's too much for them to play weekend as well. And on the weekend, we will see the same dross we saw last night. Players who can't cross a ball, a midfield who can't play forward or balls through the lines. And I kind of agree with that, because when I saw the starting lineup against Sheffield, again, it was almost like you could almost hear a collective groan across social media at the omission of Kieran Tierney.
Oh, yeah.
Who, the manager had said only just before that he was fit and ready to go. But then afterwards, when I was looking around on social media, it seemed that his reasoning for leaving him out was, well, Kolashinak's done nothing wrong. And I was thinking, well, at the beginning of the season, when Callum Chambers played for a couple of games, he done nothing wrong. And he was moved out of the way to make space for David Luiz. So I'm not sure sometimes when he says things and what he does seem to be two different things, because I don't understand why we are playing players in the Europa League like Tierney and Holding, and we're going to get stuck in that cycle now because the next league game is going to be on Sunday. And like the tweet says, are we going to rush? Are we going to let Kieran Tierney come back from an injury, play double, do a double bubble in a week, play 2 games on the spin? Is he going to do that with Holding? So, yeah.
Well, he did that with Saka, didn't he? Saka had a great game in the on Thursday in Europa League, and he gave him his debut in the Premier League on the Sunday. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility, but it's highly doubtful with the fullbacks because of the severity of their injury. Well, obviously not so much Tierney. His injury obviously was completely different, but with Bellerin, if he plays Holding, it's highly doubtful they'll play on Sunday.
Andrew, he said Tierney was healthy for the game and he didn't play him. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. Someone asked me yesterday, what lineup would you like to see on Thursday? I said, whatever fucking lineup gets our best 11 in when we go back to the Premier League, because I'm worried, like Stan, that he's going to start Tierney and Bellerin, and we're going to wind up with Chambers and Kolasinac when we go back to the Premier League.
It frustrates me massively, and it just shows you that Emery is the only person in world football that would prioritise a Europa League group stage game over the Premier League.
And because what I said a few moments ago about, we've got this board now that provide the tools for the head coach. From what I can see, he's not using those tools. We paid good money for Tierney. Celtic, they made us dance to their music, and we had to pay 25 million as a lump sum. We paid good money for Torreira as well, and he's just got this way of picking the players that he wants. And surely, if the board are running things, they're not going to be happy shelling out this money and then seeing these players being rotated in cup games or sat on the bench like Torreira. They can't be happy with that. Well,
no one's happy with it apart from Emery, are they? Really? Let's face it. No fans are happy that Torreira ain't playing, and he's the only person. I've put this out yesterday. Obviously, I don't know, you may not have heard it yet, but I just had to have a rant, and I made a podcast out of it yesterday, and I couldn't help myself because everything had to come out, because it's just so frustrating that just as a small sample size, that he's the only person in the world that can't see that Torreira should be sitting in front of the back four, and he's not on number 10, for God's sake. There's so many things you could just go on and on and on and on about what. Actually, it'd be so much easier to say, what does Emery do correctly? And because I can't think of much, to be perfectly honest. If you wanted to tell me what's bad about Emery, then you can go on all night. That's the problem. And I've got just quickly go on to my first tweet here while I'm at it. Wenger versus Emery, the last 45 games of Wenger versus the first 47, I beg your pardon, of Emery. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah.
Let me read that out. So Wenger's last 47 games, Emery's first 47 games. Wins, Wenger 26, Emery 25. Goals scored, Wenger 90, Emery 86. Goals conceded, Wenger 59, Emery 63. Clean sheets, Wenger 17, Emery 10.
Wow.
That is pretty damning, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Considering how badly everyone hated Monsieur Wenger and wanted him out. That's 47 games. That's more than a season, right? And Emery has I mean, that's just a tip of the iceberg, by the way. If you look at all the other stats that float around, which, it's hard to get your head around sometimes, but they're all damning. They're all damning.
Yeah, Emery's away record, testing my old man memory, 6 wins, 10 draws, and 8 losses. That's his away record as Arsenal manager. That's not good enough.
No.
I got this one tweet here, Andrew. If it's my turn, is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't read my own handwriting of who did it. Any Arsenal fan that is not Emery out right now does not know what they're talking about.
Oh, yeah, no.
I can't read my own handwriting for who did, but it got like 200 likes. That tweet. I'm not Emery out right now. I'm a little bit offended by that tweet. If he was fired tomorrow, I would not shed a tear, gentlemen. But I think that he needs to finish the year. Although it frustrates me because I know he likes to play with he likes to play wide, but he sits Tierney, against Sheffield United, and I don't understand, like you said, Andrew, what the F he's doing.
Guys, I'll put it out there. I think.
Are you guys out right now?
Alex, are you, Alex?
No, I said I'm going to put this out right now. That most of you will probably know that I'm not Emery out, and there's been talk about him being sacked, fired, or whatever. And my opinion is that the board, whoever employed him, has given him a 3-year contract, not a 1-year contract, not a 2-year, a 3-year contract. So it's a 3-year project. We're not even 1/3 into the season, and people are already calling out for the manager's head. I'm not an Emery out. I'm an Emery in.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
I'm supporting the club as well as supporting the coach. We want stability. We want to change. We've got change. Let's get behind the coach. Of course, he's not perfect. He's making errors and mistakes that's even pissing me off. And nobody can get into his head and understand why he's making those changes. There's talk about he doesn't know his best 11. He knows his best 11. Unfortunately, Tierney's just come back from injury. Bellerin's still off the pace. Lacazette just had a few minutes just the other night. Why he's not playing Holding, I don't know. Why he's not playing Torreira, nobody knows. But one thing is for sure, if we don't give this guy time to do his project, which is a 3-year project, what I'm scared about is that we're going to get into a cycle that we're going to sack him. Who we're going to bring in next? Then we're going to give him 2 years. We don't like what he's doing. We lose. We call for him to be sacked, and we continue the cycle. The next coach comes in, gets rid of half of the squad, like Emery has done, and we continue the cycle.
No, I don't think that's right, though, Alex. I'm sorry to butt in. I am sorry to butt in.
Okay, go for it.
But it's not down. The whole setup of the club now is such that it's not the head coach that comes in who's going to be choosing the players. We get a head coach to coach the players that he's given. So the new coach coming in, that's why we're setting up like this, because this is the modern way a football club is run now. A head coach comes in to coach the players that he's given. It's not down to him anymore. We've learnt our lesson with regards to Wenger of running the club from top to bottom.
Of course.
And the head coach is going to come in. That's why we're not dependent on a coach now. Doesn't matter who comes in, because none of that side of the business is down to him anymore. He's just got to get results from the players. And that is why the clubs like Watford and so on are changing their managers and getting better and better and better all the time, because it's not affecting them in the in the part of the club, because they're literally, their job is to coach the players and get them to win football matches, and that's it. And with regards to his 3-year contract, there is a break clause in after 2. It's not an option that people thought. It's not an option of the 3rd. It is a 3-year contract, but it's got a break clause after year 2. So we won't have to pay him at the end of this season. We can break that contract.
All right, so you're saying that you would get rid of him tomorrow, Andrew?
Absolutely, I would.
Okay.
Because from what Alex, what you said, I totally get, and I totally and utterly respect your decision, and I would never mock you for it. I'd never run you down for it, because that's your opinion, and that's absolutely fine, and I respect you for it. But when you said, "Are we prepared to go round and round?" I can't remember your exact wording, what I wanted to say there was I'm more prepared for that than to put up with this turgid, dross football because I can't stand it anymore, Alex. I can't stand watching it. It's
Andrew,
poor.
let me ask you this question. For me, the game of last season was when we played against Spurs and we beat them 4-2, where I was almost in tears.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
So there's three outcomes when you play a football game. There's a win, a draw, and a loss. You cannot expect Arsenal to win all the games. That is just part and parcel of the football the football world. Three outcomes. You can't expect them to. Hang on 1 second. You can't expect them to win all the games.
Andrew,
oh my God!
I'm sorry. I just wanted to Stan, since this is your first whatever you call these things, it's not tag team. Just jump in there, and I've been dying to hear if you're Emery out right now or not.
I'm Emery. I'm Emery in, but it comes with conditions. When he took over at the club, I always said that I was going to give him to this Christmas coming, and I wanted to do that because we've got so many key players that are out injured, and I see a lot of people online saying, look, you know, he needs time. He needs to get Tierney back into the team. He needs to get Bellerin back into the team. The centre of defence needs to be sorted. Maybe Holding's going to come in and take a place. So my thinking is that come January, all of those players should be back and fully fit and have games under their belts. So if we get to January and I see that we're still getting our pants pulled down by lesser teams, then he's going to have to go, you know. And the way that I'm looking at it now is I said that I would make my decision in January, but after that Sheffield United game, Christmas might come a little bit early this year for Emery, where I'm concerned. And if it continues with the way that it is with like the game that I just saw with Sheffield United, he ain't going to like the present that I leave for him under the tree.
Oh, man. You could work in the corporate world here in the States, Stan. Oh, my God.
So yeah, I'm in because, again, exactly what Alex said. The reason that I'm in is I don't think that – I think the job's too big for him personally. But I want him to succeed because whoever came in after Arsene Wenger, for me, had to be the man. For the simple reason that I don't want to see us go down the Man United route. And I said this the other day on the Arsenal Fan Circle pod. I don't want to see us chopping and changing. Not because the team's going to get broken up, because as Andrew says, you know, the next guy that comes in has to work under certain conditions now. But it's going to be the chopping and the changing, the new ideas, the new forms of play. Some players is going to fancy over others. And if it doesn't work out with that guy, then we've got to pay that guy off. And then we've got to get another guy in and start all over again. So I want Emery to succeed simply because I just want us to start laying a foundation now. But I do think that the job is way too big for him. He looks like he's been given a Formula One car and like he just wants to go back and drive his Volvo. You know?
What difference would it make then, regards to, you say, if get a new guy in, it'll be two different chopping and changing, getting used to new thing. What difference is that than what we're doing at the moment? Because we never play the same team or the same formation from 1 week to the next. We adapt to the next opposition at the moment. We haven't got.
I'm giving him until January to see if that's going to settle. Once he's got all of his tools back, I want to see if there's going to be some kind of coherent plan. But I'm not holding my breath because, as you say, Andrew, every other week it's something different. I mean, it's like a Kinder egg. You don't know what's going to be inside it until you unwrap it and everything. And you know, you look at games coming up, and when I looked at the Sheffield United game, I was like, okay, maybe this is going to be the game where I see Arsenal finally in the Premier League take a team and take a game by the scruff of the neck, and let's bang out 3-4 goals. Let's see Pepe score a goal and maybe get a couple of assists or a couple of goals and an assist. That's what I was hoping for. But inside, when I saw that team lineup, I thought to myself, we'll be lucky if we nick a draw. And you know, they proved me wrong. We couldn't even go and do that.
But that was my prediction, Stan. I thought it was going to be a draw.
I predicted 1-1.
Yeah, I said 1-1 because we've been stuttering. There's still some players who are still trying to find their feet, and Unai Emery still doesn't have his best 11 to hand.
It's always something, though. We're always waiting for something. That's the problem I've got. It's always, oh, well, wait till he's got this. Wait. Well, yesterday, or sorry, not yesterday, day before, he could have played his first choice back four. He could have done it, and he didn't. He didn't.
Can I ask a question to Alex? Like you just touched on something you said there. If Alex, when we get to January and Tierney's back, fully fit, Holding, Bellerin, whether they're in the team or not, but if we get to January and all of those tools are ready to go and available, and we're still having games like we had with Sheffield United, would you still be okay with holding on to the end of the season, or would you be happy to pull the trigger then, just based on the manner of the performances, if they're going to be like they were yesterday?
I would wait until the end of the season.
Still,
it's a 3-year project.
And what about you, Glenn?
For me, the ceiling has raised for Unai Emery. It's third place or you get the hell out of here. And I disagree that we don't have a nice foundation for another coach. To use your car analogy, Stan, if we got another coach, it's like, hey, here's an awesome car, just needs some new tires, meaning midfield and a little bit on defense. I don't think that, it's a blank canvas and you got to get half the guys out of here if we get a new coach. And while I don't want to fire Unai right now, or at least until the end of the season, I would be on the phone with Allegri saying, hey, what you doing, man? Hey, what's up? You like London? You know what I mean? I would just see get a little taste of what he's thinking right now. Because he's on holiday, I think, if I remember right.
I'll just say something to IG as well, who's watching. He thinks I was being disrespectful to Emery by calling him the head coach and not the manager. And the fact is, I'm not being disrespectful, IG. His title is head coach. When he came for the interview, he was told at that point he would have to work with and coach players that we've got. He came with a dossier of all the players, didn't he? From the under-23s and the first team, and said, I can work with these people.
And IG, you need to stay off social media because you're being called a lot worse things than head coach. So
I'm not. He isn't. He factually is not the manager. He is the head coach. I just wanted to make that point anyway. And he's also gone on to say, I hail Liverpool management and fans, much open-minded and understanding. You have every right of your opinion, but it won't take us any further forward. Well, I mean, it's the difference between us and Liverpool and Manchester City. When they got Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp, you could see from the first week, 2 weeks, months, when they were in position, they had a plan. They had a way of playing, and they set about taking out the team, the people that didn't fit into their way of playing, and going systematically replacing them with people that fit their system. We've got nothing like that. We haven't got a system. We're 18 months down the line. We still do not know how we play football from one week to the next. We cannot say. No one can predict the lineup. No one can predict how we're going to play because he bases our form of play on our opponent. It's completely different. And if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be very open-minded and understanding at the moment as well, IG, because I wouldn't have anything to complain about. Not one thing.
I'd also make a comparison there. Brendan Rodgers over at Leicester. He's only been in there 5 minutes, and he looks to have his feet right under the table. Right
exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on Brendan Rodgers. When we were looking for a new manager before Unai Emery, I kind of like Brendan Rodgers. I threw a little tweet out there. I was massacred. Arsenal fans can be very snobby about who they want as manager, and sometimes it costs us.
Brendan knows how to set a team up. He does. All right. He's got a funny personality, and I do call him he's like a David Brent. Sometimes. He had that David Brent way about him. But tactically, I mean, he went up to Celtic, right? And I've lived in Edinburgh, and if they didn't like him, they would have run him out. They don't take fools easy, and he settled in up there. And I like what he's doing at Leicester. And like you, Glenn, when I mentioned his name when we were looking for a replacement for Wenger, I got slaughtered.
Yeah, it was like, stop hitting me! I'm sorry, Jesus.
The thing is, though, he's improved, I think, since he left Liverpool. I think he's a better manager, and he's learnt not to be so David Brent in front of the cameras either.
The only worse reaction you got is if you said, I wouldn't mind Arteta as Arsenal coach, and now half the people on Twitter are saying I like Arteta replacing Unai Emery.
Yeah,
so fickle
because he makes the tea for Pep.
Yeah.
I don't get that about Arteta personally. I really don't get the clamour for Arteta, even though he's been working underneath Pep Guardiola. He's not got any coaching experience of actually running a team. He hasn't done. He's the assistant, but people say that Freddie Ljungberg. Oh no, he ain't got any experience. Well, he's got more experience than Arteta, much more. Anyway, let's move on. Glenn, just quickly, because you're going to go soon, don't you, Alex?
I've
got to take my leave. But
no problem.
Yeah, guys, thank you for having me back on the channel.
Oh, wonderful, Alex.
Yeah.
Alex, I'll see you on Friday on your show, Alex.
No worries.
Yeah.
Take care. See you later.
Safe journey to the
Take care.
And then it was 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I got to readjust my camera. All right. Now you just got my big face in there. Okay. I'm ready.
Now, I was going to have a quick chat about tweets. I was having a bit of a conversation. Actually, no, I'm going to go on to that a bit later. First things first, I'm going to change the subject and have something really nice to talk about. Because today is the anniversary of, back in 1999, was when Kanu scored the hat-trick against Chelsea in the last 15 minutes of the game, when we were 2-0 down. Do you remember that match? Oh, what a game.
I was sat in a van. I was working for a company, and we had to go somewhere out in the countryside in England somewhere. And I remember we were coming back in a van, and I had it on the radio, and I made them stop at an off-licence before we got on the motorway. so I could get three tins of Tennant Super, and by the time I got home, I was mashed up.
That match lives long in the memory. I mean, the guy was magical. I loved him because he looked so ungainly the way he played football, but he was so skillful and incredibly popular back in the time. But I love the guy, and that match is probably, I'd say, probably definitely my top 10, if not my top 5 matches, I reckon, for enjoyment throughout my time of supporting Arsenal. I absolutely loved it, and I can't believe that was back in 20 years ago. That was 20 years ago, and I've retweeted some highlights of the match today, and it brought back some really nice memories. To be perfectly honest, I mean, Overmars created a couple of the goals for him, and when you look back at that team, I mean, it was just that was. If I could go back in time, that would be such an exciting time to go back to as an Arsenal fan, because that was just. We were just getting absolutely bloody fantastic around that point, weren't we? I mean, Wenger had 3 years under his belt, and if we knew then what we had coming up in the next few years, I mean, I thought at that point, in 1999, I thought at that point, I still couldn't quite believe the football I was watching as an Arsenal fan. And if you could know what was going to come up, even 2 or 3 years down the line, I mean, wow.
So you're so miserable with what's going on right now. You're just sitting in the dark looking at old highlights. I mean, I try not to do that kind of thing. I was
quite that bad.
I was watching some 80s videos a little earlier today, remembering when I was single without kids. But I realized that wasn't very healthy. So.
No, that's a whole new kettle of fish, that, isn't it?
So I'm just teasing you, Andrew. I'm just teasing.
Oh, absolutely. I know you are. But I mean, IG. What I just said about Arteta, I wouldn't mind having Ljungberg on a rolling contract personally, on a month-to-month contract. I wouldn't go whole 2 feet in like United did with Ole after a few good results.
Is there any precedent, Andrews? Is there any precedent for that? I have never heard any coach in any sport willing to accept that kind of deal.
It's a caretaker coach.
Yeah.
It's a caretaker.
That would have got Stuart Houston in. Do you remember?
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. I've never heard of that before. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please go on with your point. I wanted to understand what you were saying.
when Ole got the job at United, he was a caretaker coach until they got a new coach, right?
And he had a rolling contract of month to month.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously, it completely turned on its head, and Rio Ferdinand got in the job, didn't he? by slamming the contract on the table and saying, get him to fill it out himself. So, yeah, he got the job permanently then. But until that point, he was a caretaker manager. And that's what I would do with Ljungberg if and when the board did pull the trigger on Emery. And I'd be really happy with that, just in the interim, just to see how he got on, because I'd be really excited by what he could do. Because I think that he would just create. I mean, obviously, the difference when Ole took over at Man United, and this is not a Man United show, so I'm not going to talk about that very often for much longer. But the instant impact he had, I genuinely think we'd get that from Ljungberg, and that might be all we need at this stage, because the way I'm thinking is this season is so important to get back into the top four, and I think it will be seriously damaging financially if we don't for the board and the club. And there's a window of opportunity here this season to get into that top four with the way that our competitors are for the top four. We've got 2 places to play for, haven't we? Obviously, Liverpool and City are going to get the top 2, we all assume. That means there's 2 places left, and there's us, Spurs, Chelsea, and Leicester battling for those last 2 places. And if we don't get it this year, then no one can say that the other teams aren't going to strengthen next summer, and we could be really at the back of the queue potentially.
I want Stan to answer, then I'll answer, because I've been talking too much.
What's the question?
Well, how would you feel about Ljungberg?
Ljungberg, yeah. If what I said about we come to January and we're getting spanked all over the place, then I would all be for hooking Emery in January and putting Freddie in, as Andrew says, as a caretaker to the end of the season. And at the end of the season, we all regroup and we look at how Freddie's done for that end of the season. Do we give it to him on a more of a permanent contract, or do we see who else is available, who would come in and take the job? But I think whoever we do get in, and we touched on this earlier, we're going to be. We're not going to have all of the choices that we'd want. I see a lot of people asking for Mourinho, which I think would be poison. That would just be poison as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
But we'd never get him, because do you think someone like Mourinho would come and work under the kind of constraints that we now put into a head coach? You know, he would not have the kind of personality, I don't think, who'd be happy for, Edu and Raul and Vinay calling the shots above him. He likes to call the shots. So I just don't think that's the sort of manager that we'd get.
No. He wouldn't come in as a head coach. He wouldn't be a full-time, full manager. Just to interject just slightly, IG, if you're still watching, can you put a little note in the comments box, please, as quickly as you can? Right.
As far as Ljungberg goes, I think that you tell him, if we got rid of Emery tomorrow, which I am against, I think Ljungberg would have to come in, Allegri, any shit like that, because we want to keep that youngsters' progress going. Our youngsters are, have me the most excited this season, even with all these shitty games like the last one. And to keep that continuity, get Ljungberg in there to replace Emery. If you have to fire Emery tomorrow, you know what I'm saying, guys, so the younger players' progress keeps going, because they worked with him.
I mean, you know what I want to happen, but I don't think that.
Yes, I know you want Emery fired tomorrow, and you want Ljungberg to have a day-to-day contract depending on how Kroenke feels. Yes, I know.
But the point I'm trying to come to is, what do I actually think that the board are going to do? And people say that we're not a firing club, we're not that type of club. But since summer 2018, we're a new club, we're a different club with 100% owners. We don't fully know what type of club we are anymore. And I think they've shown that they are quite ruthless.
Well, didn't we force Wenger out of that last year? Or
yeah.
I don't think we forced him out, right? We forced him out. I think
he got the sack, and it was the summer he left the club, the summer of the Kroenke's takeover, 100% takeover.
Was it a sack? I thought he said, "No, I'm done."
No,
It wasn't
they wanted him to go, and
right, but it wasn't
remember-
officially a firing, a sack. Am I wrong?
It was a parting of the ways.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. A parting of the ways. I love
He weren't very happy about it, was he?
So what my point is that whether Emery has a third year or not, if they force Wenger out, they're not going to say, "Oh, we're tied to Emery for another year." They're going to force him out if they don't like him.
Well, this is the point I'm making. There's no way that it wasn't to do with when they took 100% control of the club, and it's no coincidence that Wenger left that summer. So I do honestly think that they have got the ruthlessness, but how quickly would they do it? I think that it could possibly be by around Christmas time. Personally, I don't think it'll be any sooner than that at all, unless we go and lose to Crystal Palace. And then, maybe lose the next, because our run up until December is the easiest we've got in the whole season, match-wise, in the Premier League. And if we haven't done enough by Christmas, because we all know how difficult the Christmas period is, if we're not in the top 4 reckoning by then he will definitely be gone.
One quick thing, Stan. One thing that Monday taught me, Andrew, is there is no easy schedule anymore. Anything can happen at any time. Go ahead, Stan.
No,
I was just going to say that quite recently, within the last couple of weeks, wasn't there a Q&A session up at the stadium with Ranieri? And I'm sure I read in some of the transcripts that he said, that Emery does have targets, and the target is to get back into the Champions League. So the minimum requirement from Emery is 4th. So if we get to a point in the season where it looks like we're not going to make the Champions League, they'll definitely be on the phone trying to get something in place. He won't get that 3rd season, I don't think. That's his target, and the board have basically said in public this is what he needs to achieve. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's definitely the case that there is this the break clause, and he knows that. So, technically, Emery knows that he's fighting for his job this year, whether he's going to get the 3rd year or not. Now, we say, although the contract is technically a 3-year contract, there's the break, so he knows that he's living on a knife edge at the moment. But the comments that he made after that Sheffield United match,
oh my God, we should have won that game. I couldn't believe he said that. I could not believe it.
It's on a par with what Granit Xhaka said after matches on occasions as well, isn't it? Really, coming out and saying we're all scared and blah blah blah, and it's just the things he says just don't endear him to the fans, do they?
Yeah, really? And I know sometimes there's a language barrier, but he was asked in the press conference, "Was that your best starting 11 today?" And he started talking about corner kicks. So I don't know. You know what I mean, guys? I don't know.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's just embarrassing, really. Isn't it?
He was asked about the lineup, wasn't he? And they said they asked him 5 times, and every time he just went to a different subject and wouldn't be committed on the answer. But I also read as well that after the game, after that Sheffield game, Edu waited behind and spent 15 minutes with the away supporters. Ooh. So they definitely know what the feedback is. And you can imagine how the tempers must have been for those travelling fans to travel all the way up there in the pissing rain to see that. And then you get asked right after the final whistle what your thoughts are. They probably didn't hold back.
No, I think that's genius by Edu, and that gives me comfort, to be perfectly
honest. That's his job,
yes, right? I didn't know that.
That's part of his remit. He wants to know what the fans think, and as I understand it, it's sort of through Edu is how we're going to lay down the DNA of how Arsenal looks out on the pitch.
Exactly. He wants to have the Barcelona and Ajax model where the under-8s are playing the same type of football, technically, as the senior team. He wants to have the whole DNA running through the club. And he cannot be happy with the way that we're playing football at the moment. He just
I saw people online saying, I don't even know what Edu does. He just looks like he's really good at ironing because his shirts always are so white and crisp.
Yeah. Honestly, think he irons his own shirt. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Oh my God, social media can be so evil.
Well, I've just seen on the comments section from Ryan, from the brilliant Mr. Arsenal podcast.
Hi, Ryan.
That Chelsea have just nicked an away win to Ajax, and Ajax have won the last 10 games on the trot. They're on a real shit hot vein of form, and Chelsea have just beaten them away. This is what I'm on about how desperate it is that we succeed this year, because Chelsea are playing a lot better than I thought, and we've got, and Leicester, we all know how good they are at the moment. And going back to what you said earlier, Stan, about Brendan Rodgers, I mean, the only thing that put me off initially was purely that link that was going around about, the David Brent thing. That put me off him. But you cannot say that he hasn't improved since he left Liverpool. Plus, what you said earlier is exactly what I was thinking earlier today as well, about when he went into Leicester. How long did it take him to turn that team around and get them playing his style of football? I'd say probably less than 6 weeks.
It was almost instantaneous, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so why? This is so annoying. Oh, he's only been here with us 18 months. I mean, for God's sake, a week in football is a hell of a long time. Now, I used to play, to have nowhere near professional level, but a decent level when I was a kid. And that training when I was a kid, playing sort of the level I did made me sick on the side of the pitch. It was that hard. And when I was as fit as the butcher's dog. And when I was training every day with them, you get to know with the manager, you get to know your teammates inside out very quickly. And if he hasn't got to know his starting 11 yet, after 18 months, and I'm sorry, but you ain't the guy. And it doesn't take that long to actually get a team set up playing the way that you want them to play. It doesn't take that long. So I just worry a bit. And the deep-rooted problems I've got with Emery is not just I keep having to reiterate this. It's not just down to the time he's had with Arsenal. When he was appointed, I didn't know very much about him at all. And I actually researched his background. Did you know what the most important thing is when you're researching someone's background within football? You read what the fans think about him, because you get the truth. Ignore what the media say about him and not everyone on the telly and blah, 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 and all these people he's played with in the past, because they ain't going to say bad things about him. But if you actually research a guy by what the fans think about him, then you get the truth. And not one club that he's ever managed before have got anything, they feel no warmth to him. Even Sevilla, where he won the 3 Europa Leagues, they still hated his football. And that said everything to me. And that's the way I've been feeling since he got the job at Arsenal. And nothing I've read or seen on the pitch, especially ever since he joined, has made me change my mind. And that's why I'm worried, because this is Emery. He ain't going to change. He's played this type of football all the way through his managerial career.
Well, Andrew, we're not that far apart. You want him gone now, and Stan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we want to wait until the end of the season. We can't be reactionary. We need to. I know. Believe me, I don't want to stick up for Emery. I friggin' hate it. I can't stand his football. But we need to see him with Bellerin and Tierney and Holding in there. You know what I'm saying, dude? And Ceballos. Fuck Ozil. I don't care about Ozil. And after, a little run of games like that, if he puts them in the starting 11, then we can say, all right, Lundberg, take over. Emery, get the fuck out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just have to really think about... I think it might have been Arseblog, the last podcast from Arseblog, saying how critical it is for the club that we actually qualify for the Champions League this year. And that's the main thing I'm thinking about, because I've got no loyalty whatsoever to Emery. I've got actually no loyalty to any single one of the players, but I've got loyalty to the club. And if it's going to be serious financial ruin for the club by not getting into the Champions League, and it gets worse and worse and worse as the seasons progress, because all our competitors around us are getting better and we're not, then that worries me. And I really want us to qualify for the Champions League more than anything, because of the future security of the club. That's why I'm so passionate about it. I don't give a mark about Emery or the new manager that comes in, to be perfectly honest, as long as they do a good job for Arsenal, because I don't want us to go and slip behind the scum up the road. We are. They for the first time ever, last season, they outperformed us financially. You know, and it's only going to get worse as the seasons progress if we don't qualify for Champions League.
I think you can see how important that it is to the club as well that we get into the Champions League, and I think that's why we got a lot of the players that we got in the last window. All right, you know, we went big on Pepe. We didn't pay out the 72 in one whack, but we've committed to make those payments. And I'm also hearing that when we tried to get Dale Upamecano from RB Leipzig,
yeah,
he's got a buyout clause, hasn't he, in his contract, and his contract's running down now. And what I'm hearing is that they're trying to get him to sign a new contract so that they can increase the buyout clause. He doesn't want to sign a new contract, so Emery's going to go back there in the next window at Christmas in January, and we're going to go back with 40 million because it's like 40 million. Otherwise, he can leave on a free. So again, if that's to be believed, then that shows you that by doing that bit of business in January, that it really is vital to the club that we get back into the Champions League and we don't miss out and end up in the Europa League, you know, for next season.
Yeah, I know. I really thought that after we've made that bid in the summer for Upamecano, that Raul ain't going to waste all that time. There's no way he'll be working behind the scenes to get him in January or summer. And just briefly before we carry on, Stan, Ryan, Stan.
Hi, Ryan.
This is the guy. He's come on because he's been nice and active on the comment box there. You may be able to see all the comments that he's been making.
I haven't seen the comments. Ryan, jump right in. Would you fire Emery tomorrow? Ryan sent me the funniest picture of Unai Emery dressed as a clown yesterday.
Yeah.
No, initially, as Andrew know, I was on my channel straight after the game, and I was like 2 weeks. But yeah, I'd have sacked him now, today. The thing is, Eddie was there as well. He was at the game because other people would come out and they'd have photos of him afterwards outside on the rain. So they're watching Emery for fine tooth comb. And if they, as I said in the chat box, how long does it take until they realise he ain't going to get them meet their minimum target of Champions League football? The sooner they realise that, get him out and bring someone in that will get them, that they do have faith in it. The players will believe in it and actually understand what's going on. Because ex-players, like Alan Smith and all that, are saying they spoke to players, and the players don't have a clue what's going on.
No.
See, there's all this.
They don't know what he wants.
Does anybody?
No, I don't
it's true though. But you ask any of your friends down the pub, anyone you talk to online, what's Emery trying to do? If you ask any football pundit that's paid to go on a TV and talk about football, they don't know what he's doing. You know, we don't know what he's doing. Nobody seems to know what he's doing.
I bet his missus doesn't know what he's doing either. She goes, "What the fuck are you doing?"
It wasn't bad enough slamming him for 50 minutes. You had to kick him in the nuts there, Andrew.
I bet she did. No, but I don't think he. Well, the problem is when you're a young player. Coming into the first team, you can put yourself in their position when you're 18 years old. Right? You've got enough to sort of think about as it is. But when you're actually changing your system week in, week out, and being asked to do this, being asked to do that, and you're being played out of position, then of course you're going to get confused because you think, and you can't understand him properly from when he's talking to you. And I'm not being horrible when I say that because he speaks a good English. And he speaks far better English than I do Spanish, obviously. But I'm not knocking him for that. But he is hard to understand. And you often see them going to Leonberg asking for what, you know.
I know. I get that, dude. I get that. Ryan, I asked everybody that wants Emery out yesterday. Can you hear me, Ryan? Who would you replace him with? Would you just put Lundberg in there?
If I was the board, I'd put Lundberg in as a temporary basis.
Okay.
Allow them the time and not rush the next appointment. Because if you take the risk is we sack him, and then we obviously rush away and get someone in, and it doesn't work out. As long as they take their time, there's more chance of it working out this time.
Can I say something on that just very quickly? Sorry, Glenn.
It's your show.
I totally. That's exactly the point I was making earlier about him coming in as a caretaker, because I think we should make the appointment in next summer for the new manager. However, I hope it does turn out to be Freddie Ljungberg. I really, really do. I want him to succeed if he becomes a new manager. However, what we can't do, like Ryan said, is rush into the new manager and just jump for Allegri, thank you. Just because he's available, or for God forbid, Mourinho, because he's available. No, we need to get the right person, and I'm 99% sure that the right person is currently employed. I don't know who that is, by the way. I'm just saying.
Well,
people are going to be employed, aren't they? And
he's managing Liverpool.
Well, yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I think we're about 4 years too late, unfortunately.
And if Wenger left after winning the FA Cup, Klopp would be our manager. I tell you what I'm 100% sure about, and I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm 100% sure that Mourinho is the wrong manager for Arsenal.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
Hands down.
I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want him in the club. And like I said earlier, I don't think he would join us anyway, because he would be the head coach, not a manager. He'd have no say over incomings and outgoings, and he needs hundreds of millions of pounds to succeed in any job that he's going to anyway nowadays. So fingers crossed on that one. Now, Ryan, you've come on the show. What have you sort of mostly thought about this last week within sort of the Arsenal family, with everything that's been going on? I mean, is there anything else apart from the Sheffield United game, maybe? Or if not, what do you think?
I think you've already touched on Xhaka, and I've touched it on my channel before. It's like I said it on Monday amongst my rant, but even the club don't know who appointed him as a captain, because the players and all that are saying it's them that voted him, and then literally the club itself put a statement out, and it said in the exact wording was why Unai picked him. But hang on, it the players that picked him. So they don't even know no one knows what's what. And it's so frustrating. And it's like, since it's now, because he's definitely now our club captain, he's undroppable. Yeah, he gets subbed off.
It's the
he
worst.
Gets subbed off every now and then, but he's undroppable no matter what he does.
For me, it's the worst kept secret. Yeah, that player vote was to see what one of Unai Emery's 5 captains. It wasn't, all right, whoever wins this is the captain. All right.
Yeah.
No way you will ever convince me, unless a player comes out and says that we took a vote and Xhaka was voted number 1. It was just like 2 weeks before that, Xhaka was blaming the forwards for a loss. That's not a captain.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I find it difficult to believe that they all had a post-it note. They all wrote a name on there, stuck it on their forehead, and everyone said Xhaka.
I need to follow. Are you on Twitter, Stan? I need to follow you.
I follow you.
Okay.
It was Holding, wasn't it? It was Holding that said it.
After the forwards game.
Holding didn't say he was voted number 1. Holding just said there was a vote, and we all got excited.
Yeah. No,
they might have been talking about Brexit.
Well, God, bloody hell! Don't even start going down that road. Nah. But
I don't know what's more depressing, Brexit or Arsenal.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, if you put it against Brexit, I would marry Emery over this Brexit situation. That's how much I hate Brexit.
I thought you were going to say that you'd marry Brexit over Boris Johnson.
No. No, I'd rather marry Boris Johnson than Emery, though, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, crap. Guys, I got to go. I'm sorry. I got to go. Ryan, I'll see you soon, I'm sure. Stan, It was a pleasure meeting you. Andrew, I'll see you soon. Take it easy, guys. I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole show.
No problem, mate. Well, we're going to be sort of winding down now anyway. So, yeah, thanks a lot, Glenn. And I'll see you next week.
Yes, see you next week. Take it easy, guys.
Cheers, take care. Glenn. But yeah, don't open that wormhole about Brexit, because that's one of my pet hates is those I don't know what they call them. There's a word for it, but when you put two words together to make one. What did you say?
I said, you said the word for it. I said, look, wankers. In Parliament.
When you blend, when this new thing about blending two words together, when it all started with like Brangelina and all this Brexit in itself is the most annoying. It's not even a word, is it? Really, it's a made-up word. But that annoys the hell out of me. But yeah, we're gonna have to start winding down anyway soon, guys. But yeah, go back to what you were talking about before. Right. What I mean, we'll move on from Xhaka, but one thing that really annoys me as well is his, not just Xhaka, but his overall stubbornness to play players or not play players in the case, as the case may be, out of position or not at all. And the biggest one there obviously is Torreira, and he went off on the international break, and he was man of the match for Uruguay, sitting in front of the back four, funnily enough. And why is it, do you think, that what do you think that Emery sees in him that makes, you make a cracking number 10, when we've actually got Mesut Ozil that's not even in the squad, earning 350 grand a week? Oh, no, don't worry, Ozil, sit down, you carry on playing Fortnite. I've got Torreira over here, he can take your role. Why?
Honestly, I have no idea. No, I've been a long advocate. This formation, you can only play one DM, and the only DM that's that can play that role is Torreira. I don't get why Xhaka isn't a bloody CDM. Full stop. We all know that. But for some bizarre reason, you're playing in there. But you've got to play Torreira, who's arguably the best player. When we were playing, when we first came, you played that 4-2-3-1 formation for things like injuries and all that came along. And Torreira was playing it as a DM, and that's what you've got. That's why we're getting the best out of him. This 4-3-3 doesn't work for Torreira in the sense of if you're necessarily playing in that middle of the three, it ain't working. And it also, any midfielder Xhaka in at Arsenal, he's the weak link, but he's our club captain.
I'll leave it to you, Stan. What's your thoughts on that?
When the club was going to buy Lucas Torreira, that was a board pick. The board wanted to buy him. As I understand it, the person that Unai Emery wanted to buy and play in that position was Steven Nzonzi. And if you look at the build of Steven Nzonzi, he's quite a beast in his stature. He's quite a tall guy. It's quite a bit of a lump if you compare him to someone like Lucas Torreira. And the reason that he plays Xhaka, I think, at the tip of that, in that role as the central defensive midfielder, it's purely because he likes a guy of that stature and size to be in that role. And I think that he finds someone like Lucas Torreira too small, too diminutive to be a central defensive midfielder, which is bullshit, because you only have to look at Encante. He's not the biggest lump in the world, and he plays fine in that position. And I think that is where the problem lies, is that we've got a head coach who wants to be a manager, and some of the tools that he's being provided with, he's dismissing them. So he only plays Xhaka. He only brings on Lucas Torreira to give somebody a rest. He only plays him in the cup games. And when he does play him, he plays him on the right of a diamond, or he's playing him as a 10. And I know that he did play a 10 when he was like a young lad, but that was ages ago. So that's why I think we're not seeing Torreira in that natural CDM role, and why he's sticking with Xhaka week in, week out. And it's up to him whether he wants to keep doing that, but his contract is up for scrutiny. And Granit Xhaka is going to end up being the hill that Unai Emery dies on, as far as I'm concerned.
I think so as well. I think he's making a rod for his own back. And the fact that he's playing Torreira, I don't know, I'm obviously reading too much into it, but the fact that when he does bring Torreira on, it's in like a number 10 push forward role, and he's not playing Ozil, he's leaving him out the whole squad entirely. It just seems weird, doesn't it? Oh yeah, play Torreira in that you bought for me that I didn't want as a number 10, and we'll leave Mesut Ozil out. I wouldn't put it past him, because he seems like a really stubborn bloke.
Even Dennis Ceballos as well. Why wasn't he starting on Monday? We had no creativity in that starting 45 minutes, and Danny comes on, but it's too late for him, because literally team like Sheffield United with a 1-0 lead, even if it was 0-0, they would have come out and done what they did and just sit back and protect what they had.
I think he's not a number 10 either. I think he's better in that Granit Xhaka role.
But he's great. He's a creative player. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's more of an 8, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think he's perfect for the Granit Xhaka role, personally, because he can do everything that Granit Xhaka can do, but he can also run and dribble with the ball. So he's much more mobile, obviously. However, I mean, the only issue maybe is that he is a little bit more of a, I don't know, a bit more of a maverick, you know, whether you can trust him to stay there, you know, because he does sort of like to take off here, there and everywhere, doesn't he? But I think he's only young still, and if you played him there, you know, he would learn that position and be, I think he could be, you know, top class at it.
I was reading an article and Danis Abbas was saying about, you know, that he understands that one of his problems in his play and something that he wants to work on is that he gets drawn to the ball quite a lot. So he gets pulled out of position because he's constantly trying to follow the ball. And you do see that a lot sometimes in his play, but at least he's aware of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's a good thing. And he could have that coached out of him, couldn't he? He's a bit, I don't know. I think it might have been, again, like I mentioned earlier, I was listening to the Arscast. It might have even been on that they said that he likes to take the ball to players and then move off rather than doing like a 30-yard pass. He likes to dribble the ball to them, like the Spanish way of playing football, the tiki-taka type of football. And he's got to learn about that as well. But he's had less than 10 games in the Premier League so far. And I think I really like the guy. And some people aren't keen on us buying him already. And I just think that's strange, personally. You know, it's 10 games. Well, not even that, is he? That he's had.
In the same token, I would say that, you know, he's only had 10 games. Let's not rush out and put a bid in for him yet.
Oh, no.
I want to see a bit more. I want to see more of him.
Oh, we can't yet. We couldn't anyway, I don't think, even if we wanted to. But no, I totally agree with that as well. But yeah, just at the moment, I really like the guy and I love his passion. And that is infectious as well for the rest of the team, in my opinion. But anyway, we're going to have to start coming to an end now anyway. But is there anything else you just want to add before we end the episode, guys?
I'd like to know what people's thoughts are. We've got a game tomorrow in the Europa League. We haven't really touched on. I mean, I know nothing about the team that we're going to play. I looked up before we came on just to see where they were in their league. They sat in 4th.
We're going to win 5 or 6-0, aren't we? Like we always do. And then we'll play the same team that we played against Sheffield United on Sunday, and we'll probably lose. Yeah. I mean, I'm not being funny, but they're the best games we've had all season. That and the Carabao Cup, aren't they? They're the only games you can realistically say it's been a thoroughly enjoyable watch. And I am looking forward to it. And because it is a bit of light relief from what's been going on in the Premier League.
Well, those games so far have been the highlight of the season, haven't they? Those performances with the young guns and those coming back from injury. Yeah,
I was looking forward to the Europa League for that only reason this season. Before everything, sort of properly kicked off, I was still looking forward to it because of playing the youngsters. And it's very exciting to see what's coming through and, keep tabs on these players. And I'm pleased that we've had so many come through to the first team. That's one positive of this season. And, they have been really, really good watches. I've thoroughly enjoyed every game we've played in the Europa League and the Carabao Cup so far. And I've got no doubt we're going to put in a good performance again tomorrow. And I just can't. Again, I'm not going to go back onto it, but it does make you wonder why you think, well, maybe I should just give the team a try in the Premier League, just see what happens. It's Crystal Palace. What's the worst that could happen? We could lose to Sheffield United if that's the worst that could happen. So
at least we will know one way or the other what it is that's going on. Is it because we haven't had certain players? Is why we've had certain results, or is it the way that they're being coached? Because if you've got a team fully firing with Bellerin and Tierney as the fullbacks, and we've got Holding in there, You know, we're going to see one way or the other what it is. Is it because the midfield still hasn't got a proper shape to it, and other teams' attackers are just able to waltz through the midfield and then take on our defenders? We'll know one way or the other.
Yeah, and whether it's because it is a team primarily, you know, full of young players who are trying to impress with that nervous energy and the confidence, and they just run that extra yard, that little bit quicker, try that little bit harder, show that little bit more passion. And like you said, we have had Bellerin and Tierney in the team, and they are really important links. And Tierney was my favourite purchase of the summer, to be perfectly honest. And I was really looking forward to seeing him against Sheffield United. Gutted that he didn't play. And now, like you said earlier, Stan, I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be a case now whereby he's not going to be in the Premier League team for several weeks because of only playing in the Cups and then not having enough rest between then and the next league game. We could be stuck in a state of perpetual motion, couldn't we, there?
Yeah.
That is a concern, to be perfectly honest. But it has been fantastic watching. I can't deny that, you know, in the Europa League. What's your predictions for it, boys? I'm going to say 5-0. I'm going to be bold to say it straight away, 5-0, and I think it's going to be a couple more goals for Martinelli.
I think if we go out and we kind of go out like we did in the last European game, with the same kind of intent, the same kind of you know, like the passion that Martinelli had in his game. If we go out there in the same sort of kind of mould, then yeah, I think we could be 4 or 5 goals, hopefully.
Hopefully, I think so as well. But you, Ryan?
I reckon 6, and Martinelli hat trick, just because of how he's playing in that competition, and how he's playing in the cup games in general.
Do you think Pepe's going to play in that game and he's going to be gradually phased out of the league, or do you think he's going to be rested and then put back in again on Sunday?
I think he'll be rested, personally. I want to play. Sorry, Ryan.
I personally think he should play him now in the Europa League and Cup games, and then build his confidence in them competitions, and then ease him back in to the Premier League teams, because obviously rushing him in the way he hasn't worked.
He was our best player.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe that listening to our fan base on Monday and yesterday.
He was our best player against Sheffield United.
All because he missed one opportunity, which anyone would miss. They'll have a meltdown. Yet, literally 24 hours later, Ronaldo had the exact same thing. Nothing said because it's Ronaldo.
He looked electric against Sheffield United. He's the only one that was showing not a spark out of our forward players. And yeah, of course, he should have scored that goal. Of course, everyone knows that. But that is all down to confidence. All down to confidence. That could have come off his knee and gone into the net, and that would have made a massive difference. I was so gutted for him. I was more gutted for him with that miss than I was for the team overall, to be perfectly honest, at that point. I really wanted that. Really wanted
him. So reluctant to do anything with his right foot.
But there's loads of players like that, aren't there? Yeah, I know. But there's loads of players like that are very, very one-footed. And I don't know. I've got a really good feeling about the guy that he's going to go on to good things. But he's got a 5-year contract. Let's not forget that. And again, same with Ceballos. He's had less than. Well, in fact, I think he's only had 6 starts, Pepe, or 7 maybe, 6 or 7 starts.
6 or 7, yeah, give or take.
So yeah, give him a chance. Anyway. Been an absolute pleasure, guys, to have you on. Thanks for coming on, Stan. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you have, and I hope we don't have to wait too long for you to come on again.
Not at all. Thank you very much for inviting me on, Andrew. Enjoyed chatting to you.
Yeah, likewise.
And also, as well, nice to meet you as well, Ryan.
And vice versa, Stan.
Ryan, tell Stan quickly how he and everyone else can watch your channel and follow you on Twitter.
My Twitter is My Twitter is at Mr. Arsenal89, and my podcast on YouTube is the Mr. Arsenal podcast, basically, and it's pretty much every other day I'm putting out videos, either previews or reviews. The reviews are literally out either on the night itself, after the match, or the day after, with yourself and others, Glenn, Kenny Ken, Sam, James Rowe. It's a mixture every time. It's not the familiar faces you're used to.
Yeah, and I can highly recommend it. And sorry, Stan, how can people follow you on Twitter?
I'm at Stan the Man 450. I don't really have much of a big presence on Twitter, but if you want to come and watch our after game reaction videos called Gooners in Vancouver, after every match, we put up a little reaction video, and you can find those videos on Sunny TV Unfiltered's YouTube channel. So come by, watch the videos, but let us know what you think, whether you agree with what we're saying or whether you disagree with what we're saying. Put something down in the chat box because we want to hear what everyone's thoughts are.
Brilliant. I'll definitely be doing that next time. I'll keep an eye out for that. It's been fantastic. So thanks ever so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, share with your friends, and look forward to seeing you all on the next episode every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Take care all. Thank you.
Right.
Take care. Good night.